Hi everyone, Ryan here from Fight Game Analysis, and today we are going to be talking about the upcoming fight between Canelo and Caleb Plant. But before we jump into that, if you've been enjoying the content, please go ahead and click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. Alright, so we've got a big fight coming up here between Canelo and Caleb Plant. Now this one's going to be to unify the belts at 168 pounds. First time that's ever been done in the modern era, 4-belt era, I believe. That's something else. We knew this one was coming. We know Canelo. He is chasing history. He told us a long time ago that the Canelo era was going to be an active one. It was going to be one in which he sought out the biggest fights and the biggest name fighters, and he was an attempt to mark his place in history. And we are just continuing to see that more and more. So even through all the negotiations, through all the ups and downs, we knew this one was going to come, and I'm looking forward to it, man. Now, look, you look at the Vegas sports books. And clearly they've got Canelo coming in here as an overwhelming favorite. He's already like a 10-1 favorite. Now there's some people who just can't imagine any which way possible that he could lose a fight. There's other people who are constantly looking, picking apart his flaws, recognizing the ways in which he can be beat. But let's be honest with each other. Canelo has got an amazing resume. You look at all the people he's fought. He's got the one loss. That's to Floyd Mayweather. Now look, everybody who fought Floyd Mayweather lost to him. They just lost in differing degrees of how much they got whooped. It's kind of just the way it went, particularly against Canelo. That man, he was young. What was he, like maybe 22, 23 years old when he fought Floyd? I mean, in over his head. But taking all that in consideration, I think there's two things to really pull from it. Number one, he didn't get knocked out. And that's impressive in and of itself, considering how much he was overmatched. And number two, I think it was a tremendous learning opportunity. I had been saying it for a long time that ever since that Floyd fight, that really helped him. He was kind of getting full of himself. He was kind of believing the hype, so to speak. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, think about how much he had accomplished at that point to earn that Floyd fight. How young he was, just doing it all, rattling off all those wins, as impressive as he was, all the media and publicity that were behind him. It's easy to kind of fall into that trap a little bit, almost become a little bit like you're living a Hollywood lifestyle, like you're a movie star instead of a fighter. But he went into that Floyd fight. He realized he was mortal. He realized that there were people out there who had better skills than him, who could beat him. I believe it sent him back to the drawing board, sent him back to the gym with just a newfound motivation. Like, you're never going to be able to reach the heights and the dreams that you are talking about and want to achieve unless you can go out there and you can get this done. So he went back into the gym. I believe that really helped him find himself as a fighter. Really helped him realize his identity. Where does he want to be? He's an aggressive counterpuncher. It takes him a while to figure all those things out. So awesome fight for him. Great learning opportunity. I believed he utilized it as good as you possibly could. Right? And look at him now. Look at the things he does, moving up in weight. Consistently, the shorter man, smaller reach going into the fight. This one is going to be no different. Always finds ways to get it done. Goes in there against big punchers like Triple G. Kovalev finds ways to get it done. The man's impressive. As I said, he's an aggressive counterpuncher, which is such a difficult style to deal with for most people. You want to put him on his back foot? You want to try to be aggressive? That's fine. He can fight going backward. He knows how to counter great. You want to try to ball up a little bit and let him lead? He's gonna crowd you. He's gonna box you, and he's gonna get in your space. And if you let him get too close and you force him to get off first, he's gonna do it with hard, heavy power shots, quick hands, knows how to punch well in combination, understands distance. So he puts you in this weird spot, right? You don't want to let him lead, but you also don't want to let him fight his game where he's going to crowd you, be aggressive, and force you to lead because he's a natural counterpuncher. So he's difficult to deal with in that regards. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't see success against Canelo, particularly early in fights. You watch the All Access leading up to this one, he even mentions it. He said, look, Caleb Plant's tall. He's got a good jab. He's got a long reach. He's fast, good upper body movement. He's going to be difficult to deal with in the early rounds. All of that is absolutely true. You don't have to watch many of Caleb Plant's fights to realize how talented of a fighter he is. Look at the upper body movement that he utilizes. Look at his understanding of distance. Look how fast his hands are. They call the man sweet hands for a reason. He's good. Quick with the combination punching. Understands angles. Fits his punches in there and at points that people don't really see. Look at his last fight against Caleb Truax. Okay? And look at some of the combinations that he throws on the way that he comes in and covers distance. He throws them with an odd timing. See, a lot of times fighters, you're coming up your whole life, you're fighting, you're in the gym, people develop rhythms. And sometimes those rhythms, a lot of times those rhythms are shared amongst fighters, right? You can just kind of fall into this natural beat, into this natural flow. You come in, it's a very comfortable, it's a very familiar thing. So if you get a fighter who fights in an odd rhythm, who fights at a little bit of an off beat, it's something different to adapt to, right? Kind of think about it in the same way that you think about fighting a southpaw. Yeah, the southpaw is doing the same thing as everybody else. He's throwing a jab, he's throwing a hook, he's throwing an uppercut, whatever it may be. But because he's doing it all from this different stance, the angles are slightly different. Everything's a little bit more difficult. Some things are a little bit easier depending on it, but it's different. And that's the same thing with a fighter who kind of works at an odd timing or an off rhythm. And the thing about playing is he doesn't do it all the time, but he does have times when he does it, which makes it difficult to deal with, difficult to predict, things like that. But that's all about him being able to control the pace, control the rhythm, doing things the way that he wants to do. Now you watch Plant fight and you think, wow, he's great. Look at the speed, look at the upper body move, look at the way he works behind that jab. Man, the jab's crisp, 74-inch reach. He can get that out there on a lot of people. You want to come back over the top of that with the right hand, he backs out easily. He knows how to get underneath it. But the knock against him, and it's a big knock, it's the strength of schedule. Look at his resume. Uzcategui, Mike Lee, Caleb Truax. How much bigger and better is Canelo than every single person he's faced? Right? We know that. Canelo's faced everybody you can imagine for the most part. Obviously, there's people out there. He hasn't fought Charlie. He hasn't fought Andrade. I understand all that. But look at who he has faced. Look at how he's beat everybody that he's faced except for one man, Floyd Mayweather, the guy that nobody beat. So think about all that. It's very easy to understand why everybody's leaning towards Canelo on this one. But even Canelo recognizes the problems that Caleb Plant is going to pose. Now, what's it going to look like when these two step into the ring with each other? That's really the question. And I think in a lot of ways we can predict it. I think it's exactly, the early way is going to play out exactly like Canelo said. That jab, that speed, that distance, the upper body movement. Caleb Plant's going to look good at first. First 2 rounds, first 3 rounds maybe. He's going to look good. Especially the first round and a half. Canelo is known for going out there, slow starter, trying to gauge the distance, trying to get his timing, and trying to just understand the rhythm of what his fighter and what his opponent's doing. No big surprise there. Caleb Plant wins those ones easy. Now, the question is going to be once he gets that rhythm, once he gets that timing, once he starts to try to counter and come forward, what's going to happen? And that's going to be where the fireworks start. Look, we saw the upper body moving that Billy Joe Saunders used. He understands angles really well. He's got good footwork. He saw some success. Make no mistake about it. Go back and watch that fight. He wasn't landing these big, huge power shots. Wasn't rocking Canelo all over the ring or anything crazy like that. But you go back, you watch that fight. He slipped in a lot of good shots, landed a lot. Part of the reason Canelo has been so successful is because of his chin. Dude, look at those shots that Triple G landed on him. Look at facing the puncher that Kovalev was in some shots that he landed on. Took it all. No problem. Man, Triple G threw some bombs of some right hands out there, catching Canelo right in between his punches. He took them all. Right? So he wasn't worried about what Billy Joe Saunders brought. But my point is that Billy Joe Saunders was able to land those shots. He was able to make Canelo miss. Caleb Plant's going to see that same type of success, particularly early on. He knows how to make you miss. Look at the way he's training, the way that he's working the mitts. He understands that Canelo's going to come in and explode and attempt to close the distance. He knows how to back out. He knows how to circle. He knows how to stand his ground and land a clean right hand and try to get underneath and out and cut a deep angle. Like he gets all those things. But, and it's a key but, because it makes all the difference in the world, is that as the fight goes on, I believe Canelo's going to be able to adapt. As the fight goes on, fights always get closer. Fighters start out fighting at a further distance apart than they end the fight. By the time the fight's over, by the time we hear the end bell ring of that fight's going to be taking place at a different distance than when it started. And the closer that fight gets in distance the closer the actual fighters get to each other physically, the more that's going to benefit Canelo. Canelo's got a vicious body attack. Brutal. Kind of negates that upper body movement, makes you use your feet. But Canelo's a master at cutting off the ring. He knows how to trap guys. I believe he's a better combination puncher, and he's got the power. That's a big thing. He's got the power. We know that he knows how to adapt. We know that he knows how to deal with these types of fighters. He dealt with the footwork and the speed and the elusiveness of Lara. He dealt with the upper body movement that Billy Joe Saunders brought. He understands what it feels like to stand across from a master defensive fighter like Floyd Mayweather. I'm going with Canelo in this one. I think he's going to look impressive, as he always does. I think he's going to show us more wrinkles to his game and what he can do. Look, man, we saw that press conference. We saw, sure, Caleb Plant came out with the left hand. He caught him with the fingers a little bit, but we saw the reflexes that Canelo's got in the way he was able to slip back out of the way of that left hand from Caleb Plant and the way he countered with that left uppercut and right hand over the top. Who knows? He may even open that cut back up again. Right? Highly impressive by the man. So, taking Canelo for the victory in this one. Let me know what you guys think. Is Caleb Plant going to be able to look good in spots more than just early in the fight? Or is he going to be able to present some troubles, and once Canelo figures him out, that's all she wrote? Let me know what you guys think.